Welcome everyone to our webinar and our commemoration of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I am Susan Suarez, President and CEO of the Holocaust Museum and Cohen Education Center in Naples, Florida. This is a webinar type program, which means that audience members cannot see each other, but you are able to use the chat features to say hello or comment on the program. We would love to see some comments about where you're watching from, or if you are a survivor or second generation, or why today is meaningful to you. This program is being recorded, and it will be available in a few days on the museum's YouTube channel with a link on our website. Today is a day when we reflect on the tragedy of the Holocaust and the 6 million Jewish lives lost, and the approximately 6 million lives of other people who were also persecuted by the Nazis during that time. Today, we also think about and are grateful for our local survivors who have shared their stories with thousands of students and adults. Generous with their time and always willing to connect with students and teachers, many have gone from not talking about their experiences to making them public. They know the importance of informing young people that the Holocaust did happen and the important lessons from it that still apply for us today. They know that sharing these important memories is their legacy. During today's program, we will honor our survivors, show you the museum's unique reflection room and liberation wall, and present some beautiful music from the Terracin Music Foundation for you to enjoy while you reflect on how we can all work to make our world more accepting and peaceful. I would like to thank all the people who helped put today's program together, including the staff of the museum, David Nelson, Joan Hogan, Sam Parrish, and Tim Morrison, and Cody Rodemaker. Also, our thanks to Renee Bialik of the Jewish Federation of Greater Naples, who is the Zoom wizard behind the screen, and our board of directors, who are our most dedicated supporters, and all of you who continue to be involved in Holocaust education through thick and thin of COVID and political turmoil. Now, I am pleased to introduce our board chair, Stephen Strom.
Thank you, Susan. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us on this solemn commemoration of the horrific atrocities of the Holocaust. On this day of remembrance, I ask that we all reflect on what occurred just 3 short weeks ago in our nation's capital. Based on those events, I think we can all concur anti-Semitism and racism are not dead by any means. It's just bubbling below the surface like a volcano, waiting for the right conditions to erupt. Those demonstrations and the subsequent insurgents should renew any doubts we might have had regarding a diminishment of hatred and violence against Jews and other minorities. As Primo Levi, an Italian chemist, partisan, Holocaust survivor, and writer said, "Monsters exist, but they are too few in number to be truly dangerous. More dangerous are common men, the functionaries ready to believe and act without asking any questions." This is why our work at the Holocaust Museum and Cohen Education Center, which is to educate our youth and the community to inspire action against bigotry, hatred, and violence, is even more important in these divisive times. On this day, we must reflect and remember the past and commit to making our world a better, safer, more tolerant place for all of us to live in. In the words of Yehuda Bauer, "Thou shalt not be a victim, thou shalt not be a perpetrator, but above all, thou shalt not be a bystander."
Next, we have greetings from Rabbi Adam Miller of Temple Shalom in Naples, and immediately following the rabbi, Pastor Dawson Taylor of the Naples United Church of Christ.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you to all who are joining us on International Holocaust Remembrance today. As we gather in this moment, we think about what brings us to this day, what it is that inspires us to be here. We think about the numbers: 6 million Jews, among them 1 million children, almost 12 million killed by the Nazis during the Shoah. And yet those numbers far exceed our ability to grasp their magnitude. What brings us here today, friends, from across the community, from across our different organizations and faith groups, is something more than numbers. It is the lesson learned by and taught by Elie Wiesel of blessed memory, noted author, Holocaust survivor, and inspiration. Wiesel always had one burning question: how did it happen? Wiesel grew up a promising student who embraced teaching and texts. He believed in the Western ideal of his childhood, that education and knowledge were the solutions to all of humanity's problems, that a society where everyone studied and pursued knowledge would be the ideal society. But the experiences of his youth shattered those visions. His time in the camps, Wiesel could not comprehend how individuals who had studied the great philosophers and thinkers could inflict pain and suffering and death. And after much reflection, he concluded that the missing piece was that of memory. That knowledge and information without memory have no guide, no control. That we need to remember the past, to remember those who have been strangers in a strange land, to remember those who have been oppressed, to remember those who have been the other. For it is those memories that guide us to not just use our knowledge and wisdom for our own self-interests, but rather in the interest of all those who are around us. On this International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we gather as one community from a variety of faith backgrounds and places in society to remember, to listen and take heart the stories of our survivors who are sadly disappearing one by one. We take an oath that their stories will not die with them, but that they will live on in us and in others, that we will tell their stories, that we will share their memories from one generation to the next, so that that memory will help guide not only ourselves, but future generations yet to come, that they will not forget the suffering and terror and horror, but they will learn from the lessons of the Holocaust. Your presence here today is a sacred work. Please listen, hear what is being said, and may the Holy One enable all of us not only hold on to these memories, but to make sure that all will live through us, that together we can make our world more whole and holy. Amen.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the privilege to be with you this morning, I guess now this afternoon. My name is Dawson Taylor, and I have the great privilege of serving as Senior Minister of Naples United Church of Christ, and I bring greetings on behalf of our board and our staff, and indeed our members. On this solemn day, we obviously remember deep within our hearts and souls the 6 million who were lost in this fateful time. And we are mindful of the evil that transpired. But I think that we must also in these days be mindful that the evil that transpired was possible because of the silence of those who did not stand against that evil, and for those who did not speak truth to power. For indeed, we are living in times, once again, where we are called upon to do so once again. And so the Christian community joins our voices in solemn remembrance and in honoring those who survived, and certainly those in our community who are among us, who tell the powerful stories, who speak their truth, so that we might be emboldened to speak ours. And so certainly we are mindful that we are each called to that solemn remembrance, that solemn promise, but to live into the hope that each survivor gives to us. And so we are thankful to God. We are thankful for those who did speak power, truth to power. We are thankful for those who stood against evil. And then we are thankful for the opportunity to gather, even if only virtually in times like this, to remember and to honor and perhaps even celebrate the gifts among us that give us the opportunity to be mindful of our call as we move forward as a community and a nation. And we are indeed grateful for places that remind us of this great responsibility and this great gift that unite us today. And so indeed, it is a privilege to be here and to bring voice and representation to this remembrance and this call that is so important in the days that we are in. Peace be with you and peace be with each of us today.
Thank you both, Pastor Dawson Taylor and Rabbi Adam Miller. We appreciate your continued involvement with the Holocaust Museum and your support of everything that we try to do to bring the community together. Now, I would like to introduce Rini Geist, who will be coming to us from Canada. She is the daughter of survivors and married to survivor Sam Geist. She has written a beautiful poem for today, and this poem was sent to our local survivors in a custom-made card that she also created. Rini will read this poem for us now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our promise to you. On this Holocaust Remembrance Day and every day, we remember you. We remember your strength, your bravery, your inspiration. On this Holocaust Remembrance Day and every day, we honor you. We honor your faith, your determination, your resolve. On this Holocaust Remembrance Day and every day, we appreciate you. We appreciate your knowledge, your guidance, your teaching. On this Holocaust Remembrance Day and every day, we give our heartfelt thanks to you for having known you. Our promise to you from our heart, we will always remember you.
What I think is extremely important, to tell the children your own story, because for children, a small thing speaks more to them than whatever you can teach them about history. And I always tell them, don't let anybody ever tell you the Holocaust didn't exist, because you shake my hands and then you can say, I shook hands with a Holocaust survivor, somebody who was there.
I experienced lots of anti-Semitism before the war. I lived in a bad city, Kielce in Poland. There was a beautiful city park, and in 1935 there were signs on the city park, Jews and dogs not allowed.
My husband had a teacher. When the kids said, I don't want to sit next to a Jew, he said, In my class, you sit where I put you. And a couple of days later, he disappeared, never to be seen or heard from again.
There was something called the Stürmer, a hate sheet depicting Jews as swine, lecherous animals, women like prostitutes. They ranted and raved and made Jews into the nothings. And this is what really happened, and I think that's what happened to the population, that the indoctrination went on so long, a lie repeated often enough becomes the truth.
We're standing in the reflection room. The reflection room is a space, the last space you visit when you come to the Holocaust Museum. It's a space where, we realize that a visit to the Holocaust Museum can be an emotionally wrenching experience. So we wanted a space where people could come and gather themselves, and also to reflect on what they've seen in the galleries of the museum. And we wanted to celebrate the end of the Holocaust in this room. And the end of the Holocaust is, of course, the liberation of the death camps. And the liberation of the death camps happened during a 14-week period of 1945, beginning with the liberation of the Auschwitz camp in late January and ending with VE Day on May 8th in 1945. And we wanted to celebrate this with sunlight, with a solar calendar. And we know that the sun in the winter time, which is now in the anniversary of Auschwitz, the sun is low in the sky. And in this situation, what we have here is the sun shines on the wall up high, which is where we have the date, January 27th, for the liberation of Auschwitz. And then there's different dates, different liberations that happened during the spring of 1945 and culminating with VE Day. And by the time we get to VE Day, the sun is going to be very high in the sky, almost at a vertical angle, shining straight down. And that sun angle, which is now shining high on the wall, by the time we get to May, it's going to be shining low on the wall for VE Day. So we thought this would be a moving way. Anytime somebody comes to visit the Holocaust Museum during that 14-week period, they'll get to see the sun shining on one of the dates of the liberation that corresponds with the date that they're at the Holocaust Museum. One of the things that we've been able to do with the Liberation Skylight in the museum is to actually introduce natural light. Galleries for viewing periods of the Holocaust, you don't really want to have natural daylight there because of the damage it can do to some of the different uniforms or other elements that date back to the Holocaust. But we did want to introduce nature into the space in some way, and that's another reason why we've done the Liberation Skylight. And we've set it up so that it forms the function of forming the solar calendar to celebrate the liberation, but it also provides a place where people can come and actually see blue sky, see sunlight coming in, and just a small ray of sunlight after the experience of visiting the Holocaust Museum, we think can be a moving experience. Another thing that we wanted to celebrate in the reflection room are the people who did the right thing during the Holocaust, the people who took the moral high ground, standing up and actually saving lives. And those people were anywhere from just citizens who were helping people survive, all the way to important religious figures who spoke out against the Nazis and the Holocaust during that period.
you.